Vandami Bante and good morning everyone. Good evening for everyone in the West Hemisphere. Welcome to the lesson 6 on unwholesome consciousness. May we invite Bante to start the teaching please. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
For today, have a good time and have a good New Year's for all we have been in the break for a month. Unfortunately, this year we couldn't have the Abhidhamma exam for the coronavirus condition. Anyway, we will continue our study of Abhidhamma for lesson 6. Let's pay homage to the Buddha before we start our study, reciting the Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. We have studied the Abhidhamma for some days, especially we have finished about the introduction to Abhidhamma, and we have studied about the ultimate reality and what are the ultimate reality and what is concept, which is called the conventional truth. Then for the last week, we have finished in the lesson 5, I introduced the terms we are going to use in the basics Abhidhamma learning. So today, for the specific topic, we are going to study unwholesome consciousness. It is called akusala in Pali. So in this lesson, I will explain about the unwholesome consciousness as shown as in the Abhidhamma Sangaha. In the chapter 1, the Chitta chapter, the consciousness are shown in order according to the realms. The first one is the consciousness mostly appear in the sensual realms. Those are called Kama Vachara Chitta. And then the second one is Rupa Vachara, usually arise in the form sphere consciousness, form sphere realms. And after that, the Arupa Vachara Chitta usually arise in Arupa realms, formless sphere. Then the final one is Lokuttara Chitta, which is go beyond the realms, 31 plane of existence. So according to that order, the first group of consciousness is sensual pure consciousness. So among the sensual pure consciousness, the unwholesome consciousness, akusala chitta, come first. Then another group of ahetuka chitta, rootless consciousness, will come. So as I mentioned in the consciousness, so that will come in order. The two of the unwholesome consciousness and rootless consciousness, ahetuka consciousness, are collectively called asobhana consciousness, not beautiful. So they are not beautiful. Then the third group of sensual pure consciousness is beautiful sensual consciousness. That is called Kama Vachara Sobhana consciousness. So in this way, the sensual consciousness will be explained in 3 groups. So today we are going to study the first group of unwholesome consciousness. So unwholesome consciousness in Pali, akusala translated as unwholesome, you already know that. Then another word of akusala is papa. So papa is misdeed or demerit or evil. So sometimes this unwholesome consciousness is called papa or papaka. So this is a Pali word. Akusala, same as the papa. Then why they are called unwholesome? We already discussed that the nature of unwholesome. Unwholesome have the nature of faults, the guilty, and bring the unpleasurable results. That is the nature of unwholesome. So under the unwholesome consciousness, the classification comes in 3. So Lobha Mula, Dosa Mula, Moha Mula, like this. So Lobha Mula, Dosa Mula, Moha Mula. Here we see the Mula, the word Mula. So we need to know what it means, Mula. So the word Mula, same as Hetu. So in English, there is the most prominent roots. Like the root of the tree, the lobha is a root of unwholesome consciousness. Some of the unwholesome consciousness rooted in the greed, lobha. That is why they are called lobha mula citta. Then some unwholesome consciousness are rooted in the hatred. That's why they are called dosa mula citta, consciousness rooted in hatred. And some unwholesome consciousness does not rooted in the lobha and hatred, dosa. They just rooted in delusion. They are called the moha mula consciousness. So in this way, the classification comes according to the mula. So the mula of the unwholesome consciousness, lobha, dosa, and moha, are regarded as the unwholesome. That's why the whole 12 consciousness become under the name of unwholesome consciousness, akusala citta. Now this is the way you can guess how the consciousness are classified in different names, in different way. Here in this case, according to the roots, but sometimes they cannot be identified only by the roots, because some roots, some consciousness rooted in the same roots. At that time, we cannot identify them. Here in this case, you see the lobha mula citta, consciousness rooted in greed. They are 8 in number. So 8 consciousness rooted in the lobha. If we say lobha mula citta, it refers to 8 group of consciousness. All of these 8 consciousness are named as the lobha mula citta. We need to identify with the other ways to have the specific meaning for each consciousness. So as I mentioned in previous lesson, the consciousness has only one nature. Only one nature, that is aware to the object. So consciousness just aware the objects. That's why if we say 89 consciousness, all of these 89 consciousness have the same nature. So we cannot identify which one is what. By it is characteristic. So the characteristic is the aware to the consciousness, to the objects. Then by seeing the root, now we can identify in detail the greed-rooted consciousness, hatred-rooted consciousness, and delusion-rooted consciousness like this. So under the classification of unwholesome consciousness, now we get the three types of consciousness. Is you need to know the name. And Lobha Mula Chitta 8, Dosa Mula Chitta 2, and Moha Mula Chitta 2. So in this case, we are focusing on their roots. But the root alone is not enough to identify to the specific consciousness. So that's why we need to understand more about the mental state of the consciousness. So to identify what is the specific mental state of consciousness, we have to see the associated mental factors. So consciousness and mental factors. Consciousness is citta and mental factors are cittasika. So these two are collectively called nama, come under the name of nama. So consciousness, citta also nama, mental factors, cittasika are also called nama. So in the condition of phenomena, you can understand the nama and rupa. So consciousness and mental factors are both are in nama classification. So they arise together in their nature. When consciousness arises, mental factors accompany. So mental factors cannot arise themselves, always depends on the consciousness. So the consciousness and mental factors always arise together. And we can consider they are arising in the group because they are arising at the same time. They have the same period of existence. So they vanish together. So we can see that this is the group of nama. Then let's see what are the roles. The greed, hatred, delusion are roots. Okay, roots of unwholesome, roots of evil, because their nature, greed is attachment or towards the property or our own of the others. The greed naturally, it has naturally considered as the unwholesome, hatred and delusion. These mental factors, these are mental factors, not the consciousness. So greed mental factor, hatred mental factor, delusion mental factor. In the Pali, the lobha cittasika, dosa cittasika, moha cittasika, in this way. So these mental factors are the root of unwholesomeness. They have the nature of unwholesomeness and they are the root of unwholesome consciousness. So the classification of three consciousness rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion are called unwholesome consciousness because their root has the nature of unwholesomeness. So now we can understand the consciousness cannot be identified as the wholesome or unwholesome, but by seeing the root, some consciousness rooted in the greed, some consciousness rooted in hatred, and some consciousness rooted in delusion, they can be regarded as unwholesome because of their roots. Okay, so let's see another aspect of the nature of the greed and hatred. So greed and hatred are mutually exclusive. So they cannot coexist. It means that they cannot arise together. They cannot exist together in the same consciousness. So it means the consciousness arise at a time, only one consciousness arises at a time. So two consciousness cannot arise together in one process. So a person's process, when the consciousness with greed arise, there is no hatred manifestos of dosa cetasika. So when the process of consciousness arises with hatred, there is no greed in that process. And also, another process cannot arise or cannot exist at the same time. That is why when the consciousness with greed arises, there is no hatred. When the consciousness arises with hatred, there is no greed. Then the delusion always present at the time of unwholesome consciousness. So when unwholesome consciousness arises, there is delusion all the time. So every unwholesome consciousness with delusion. So we have to understand these two differences. Greed, hatred are occasionally in unwholesome consciousness, and delusion is always present in unwholesome consciousness. So here the classification of consciousness associated with greed, delusion, because delusion will come all the times of the unwholesome consciousness. So this is called the moha. Moha is the common to unwholesome consciousness. So whenever unwholesome consciousness arises, the delusion will come together. So the first type of consciousness we can understand in this way: consciousness associated with greed and delusion. So, but we regarded it that group of a consciousness rooted in greed, but we don't say rooted in delusion, because delusion in this case cannot identify this type of consciousness, cannot differentiate from the second type, because the second and third also have the roots as delusion as their roots. Okay, let's see the second type of consciousness, the consciousness associated with. So here I say the associated with hatred and delusion. But in this case, the prominent roots is hatred. That is why rooted in hatred. So two consciousness are regarded as the consciousness rooted in hatred, although they are associated with hatred and delusion among the three unwholesome roots. Okay, the final group of consciousness, unwholesome consciousness, is consciousness associated with delusion, only delusion. There's greed and hatred. So in this case, it has only one root of delusion. That's why that type of consciousness is regarded as the consciousness rooted in delusion. So in Pali, the name are easy to remember. The greed is lobha, that's why lobha mula citta 8. Hatred is dosa, that's why dosa mula citta 2. Delusion is moha, so moha mula citta 2. Altogether 12 consciousness. So this name, based on the prominent cause, we have to understand, although delusion always present in every unwholesome consciousness, the name come with the prominent consciousness, because we can give the name by the different marks or different sign. So here the prominent sign is greed. Here prominent sign is hatred. But in third group, only one root. That is why delusion rooted in consciousness, rooted in delusion. In this way, we can identify the unwholesome consciousness in 3 groups. So if you go find the Pali, Loba Mula Chitta, Dosa Mula Chitta, Moha Mula Chitta. So this is easy to understand. The Loba, Dosa, and Moha are their roots. And Mula is show the prominent roots. So Loba and Mula, Dosa and Mula, Moha and Mula become the 3 categories of unwholesome consciousness. Then, in order to understand the identification of consciousness, so we can understand the nature of arising of consciousness, how the consciousness and mental factor arise together. So here I show the consciousness, because the consciousness is cannot be differentiated into different types. So consciousness, it just aware the object. Then here in another cycle, I show some mental factors. These are mental factors. When we study the second paramatra, second ultimate truth, we will see the group of mental factors. So in second cycle, I have written here the contact, feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness, life faculty, attention in a different form. So they always arise with every consciousness. So whenever consciousness arises, they will accompany. Then another category, initial application, sustained application, decision, energy, desire. These 6 are occasionally. So some will come with some consciousness, some will be absent. But here in this case, I add all. Then by seeing the consciousness and this type of mental factor, still we cannot identify the consciousness. This is good or bad, because they are common to all types of consciousness. Then in the larger cycle, I show that the mental factors in the group. Here, start with the delusion. So delusion, shamelessness of wrong, fearless of wrong, restlessness. These are unwholesome mental factors. So in this cycle, all are unwholesome mental factors. So these 4 leaded by the delusion, moha, unwholesome mental factor. Then another group, greed, wrong view, conceit. These 3 also unwholesome mental factor. It is leaded by the greed. And another group, hatred, envy, avarice, worry. These 4 are also unwholesome, naturally unwholesome, leaded by the hatred. And another 2, sloth and torpor, are also unwholesome. So in this cycle, altogether, okay, I missed another one. The vicikiccha, doubt. So altogether, there must be 14 mental factors regarded as unwholesome. So they arise when the consciousness arises. If the unwholesome mental factors are associated mental factors, so unwholesome mental factors arise together. At that time, we can understand this consciousness is unwholesome consciousness. So akusala chitta. So this is common to all types of all unwholesome consciousness. You already see how the consciousness and mental factor arise together. So in that case, if we just consider, because there are the technical problems. So I show even in the unwholesome mental factors, I make the group according to the leading mental factors. Some unwholesome mental factors leaded by greed, lobha. So some unwholesome mental factor leaded by moha, delusion. Some are leaded by hatred, dosa. So in this case, we can classify into three. So some leaded by the moha, delusion, is common to all because their head of the mental factors, moha, delusion, is common to all. The moha and ahirika is called the shamelessness of brown. And anuttapa, it is fearlessness of brown. And kokucha, moha, ahirika, anuttapa, moha, ahirika, anuttapa, otacha, sorry. Otacha is restlessness. So these four are common to all unwholesome consciousness. So they will follow all the time to unwholesome consciousness. And they will arise together with every unwholesome consciousness. Then another group of three, greed and round view conceit. These three will be occasionally. So when the consciousness, unwholesome consciousness arises, the greed, round view, and conceit. The greed accompany. At that time, we can see the delusion, the root of delusion and the root of greed. Two roots. We can see the two roots at that time. So, in this case, these types of consciousness are given us the greed-rooted consciousness of the consciousness rooted in greed, because the prominent root is greed. Then for another type of consciousness, the greed, round view, and conceit will not be associated mental factors. Then the other group, the hatred, envy, avarice, and worry will be accompanied. At that time, this group of consciousness are called rooted in hatred, consciousness rooted in hatred, because they have the two roots, delusion and hatred. When some types of consciousness arise, the greed, round view, and conceit come together. When some types of unwholesome consciousness arise, hatred, envy, avarice, worry, that group arise together as associated mental factors. In this way, so as I mentioned in the previous slides, the greed and hatred cannot coexist or cannot arise together. That's why these two groups will be interchangeable. So when greed is present, the only delusion and greed will be present at that moment. And when hatred is present, the delusion and hatred will be present, and the greed will be absent in that consciousness. So we can find only two roots at a time of consciousness. Okay, so we understand now. I think it's clear to understand how unwholesome consciousness are grouped as a lava mula, dosa mula, and moha mula. So in this slide, I'm going to explain the unwholesome consciousness in the Pali terms. So as we have studied in the lesson 5, the Pali terms are very useful to understand the Abhidhamma. So here, types of feeling, because the classification will come according to the feeling. The first classification, first way of classification is come with the feeling. So I'm sure the 5 types of feelings. Somanasa, so su and mana. Su is pleasant, mana. So feeling of pleasant mental state or we can say the pleasant mental feeling is somanasa. So if we refer to the consciousness with somanasa sahagata consciousness like this. So if we refer to the feeling somanasa vedana, because feeling is vedana. So somanasa vedana. And the second one just slightly difference because the bodily state of pleasant, so bodily feeling. This means the feeling based on body is called the sukha. And so feeling based on the pleasant feeling based on mental only arise in the mental state is called the somanasa, and pleasant feeling based on the bodily, the bodily is the contact, so tangible objects. Based on that is called the sukha. So this is just the slightly different somanasa and sukha. The same nature is pleasant, is their same nature. So in the same way, in the second group, domanasa and dukkha also same. So do is bad, mana, mind. So feeling of unpleasant mental state or the unpleasant mental feeling, we can use this displeasure, is called domanasa. So this is only in the mental state. And the fourth types based on the body or bodily tangible object, touching. So there is bodily feeling. In other way, we can use it bodily pain. This is called the dukkha. So domanasa and dukkha, just different from the mental and bodily. So in this way, we get the four types of feeling: somanasa and sukha, pleasant; domanasa and dukkha, unpleasant or painful. Then the last one, the fifth feeling is upekha. Another name, adukkha masukha. Adukkha here, dukkha, and art is negative meaning. So neither painful, adukkha, and masukha means asukha. So negative meaning, that's why nor pleasant. So neither painful nor pleasant is called the adukkha masukha. In the other way, it is upekha vedana. So neither gladness nor dejection. So natural feeling and equanimity are another use of upekha. So neutral feeling of equanimity. Sometimes it is translated as the equanimity, but in the comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma, it is usually the upekha sahagata consciousness is translated as the associated with equanimity, accompanied by equanimity. But our great teacher of Abhidhamma, the Venerable Sayadaw Usilananda Bhiwansa, he prefers the neutral feeling other than the equanimity, because there is the practice of equanimity meditation, and that is the word equanimity is more suitable in that case. So in this case, the classification of the consciousness, just showing the feeling, the Sayadaw prefers the usage of neutral feeling than the equanimity. So anyway, maybe it will be the same meaning in some points. So we have the 5 types of feeling. Then the word sahagata. So saha together and gata to be or arising. So sahagata means arising together or to be together. So in combination with the somanasa and sahagata, so it becomes the somanasa sahagata. It refers to the consciousness. Somanasa sahagata and consciousness is somanasa sahagata chitta. Okay, here, according to the accompanied feeling, the consciousness can be classified in this way. So some types of consciousness accompanied by joy. So pleasant mental feeling, pleasant mental fetters. This is called the Somanasa Sahagata Chitta. And some types of consciousness accompanied by bodily pleasure. This is that is called Sukha Sahagata, because the bodily pleasure is called Sukha. So Sukha Sahagata. Here you see the word Sahagata. Then some types of consciousness accompanied by displeasure feeling is called Domanasa Sahagata, because the Domanasa is the feeling of displeasure. Then the fourth one, Dukkha Sahagata, consciousness accompanied by, here it should not be joint. Accompanied by bodily pain. Yeah, joint is mistaken. So then the last types of consciousness, Upekha Sahagata, consciousness accompanied by neutral feeling or equanimity. This is how we can categorize the consciousness which has the same nature of aware the object according to the feeling. So according to the feeling, we can categorize and we can analyze the consciousness in this way. Somnasa Sahagata, Sukha Sahagata, Domanasa Sahagata, Dukkha Sahagata, or Upekha Sahagata. Because the mental fetters of feeling is common to all types of consciousness. It means the feeling, Vedana, always arise with every consciousness. So whenever consciousness arises, the feeling accompany. That is why we can identify all types of consciousness according to the feeling. So this is the way how we can classify the consciousness according to the feeling. Then, so if we classify the unwholesome consciousness according to the feeling, you can get the only three groups: Somanasa, Domanasa, and Upekha. That's why I make the smaller font for the Sukha and Dukkha, because in this lesson we are going to focus on the unwholesome consciousness. So in the unwholesome consciousness, there will be only three categories of consciousness according to the feeling: Somanasa Sahagata, or Domanasa Sahagata, Upekha Sahagata. So this is the way how we will classify unwholesome consciousness according to the feeling. So the next one is Sampayutta or Vipayutta. So Sampayutta is associated with, Vipayutta is dissociated from. Okay, so just to know the translation. Then the Ditthikata, the word Ditthikata. So you already familiar with the Ditti. Ditti is originally the word Ditti can be translated as view or opinion, whether it is good or bad. Just view, just opinion. So in this case, Gada does not have the special meaning. It means the Ditti and Ditthikata are same. So view or opinion. But here, the specific meaning of Ditthikata is wrong view. So there are two types of view. Samma Ditti with the prefix word Samma is right view. The Miccha Ditti with the prefix word Miccha is wrong view. So Ditti is just view. Samma right, Miccha wrong. That's why Samma Ditti right view, Miccha Ditti wrong view. So the word Ditti alone can be translated as view or opinion, but in the usage, the Ditti without prefix usually, or we can say that always refers to the wrong view. But sometimes it is modified with the preceding word. it can also show the right view. But if you just say the word ditthi, it usually refers to wrong view. So in this case also, ditthi and ditthigata, although they are written in common way without specification of the preface, samma or miccha, we can understand it is wrong view, because this is the place where it is mentioned about the unwholesome consciousness. So ditthi refers to wrong view. So ditthi, gata, and sampayutta come together associated with wrong view. So ditthi, gata, sampayutta associated with wrong view. Ditthi, gata, vipayutta, so vipayutta is dissociated from, that's why dissociated from wrong view. It means the whether it come with wrong view or not. If come with wrong view, we can say the ditthi, gata, sampayutta. If that types of unwholesome consciousness not associated with wrong view is called ditthi, gata, vipayutta. So dissociated from wrong view. This is another classification. So after making classification according to the feeling, this types of sampayutta and vipayutta classification will come. So this is second way of classification. And sampayutta classification, sampayutta and vipayutta classification are related to another wa. This is the patiga sampayutta. So the wa patiga, it is the synonym of the dosa. So patiga and dosa, same. So that's one, aversion, so anger. So when dosa, anger arise, it has the nature of the roughness. So it's like striking to someone or something. This is the example. So when dosa arise, it is striking to the mind. That is why the word dosa can be translated as the can call another way patiga. So patiga means striking. So which strikes to the mind. That's why dosa and patiga are same. When the consciousness associated with abortion is called the patiga sampayutta. So in the lower mula citta, the consciousness will be classified according to the wrong view. Some lower mula citta will arise with wrong view, some without wrong view. So this is the way how to classify the lower mula citta. And when dosa mula consciousness, dosa mula citta arise, it is sure there is no wrong view, because the wrong view is in the group of the greed-leaded group, in the group of greed-leaded mental fetters. So wrong view come with the greed. So when dosa mula consciousness arise, the wrong view cannot arise for sure. That's why we just need to consider to identify the patiga sampayutta. It is associated with aversion. Then the vicikiccha and uddhacca also, we can say the sampayutta, they associated with. So when moha mula citta arise, the wrong view and aversion will not arise together. The only vicikiccha or uddhacca, one of them will arise. So the word vicikiccha and uddhacca also have to attach with the sampayutta, the word sampayutta. So vicikiccha translated as doubt. So this is a true explanation about the vicikiccha. So vicikiccha is doubt. That is the meaning is position due to purposeless thinking. So someone is thinking, I'm exiting now or no, or whether I was I has been any being or not. I was how to say the human or deva in the past life, or like this, thinking in that way, considering past, future, present, the context which is not in his knowledge. He cannot identify with the knowledge. At that time, he is developing his thinking. Because of that populous thinking, there arises the decision. That is called the doubt. Another meaning of the Vicikiccha is being devoid of the remedy considering in knowledge. So when the Vicikiccha or doubt arise, the knowledge cannot solve that problem, because he just, the doubt. Even if he was explained, the things, the teaching are explained well, but he still doubt. Because nowadays, some people, they are developing their doubt. It was really happened 2,500 years ago, the Gautama Buddha or someone else, and given the Dhamma, or the later, the group of scholars developed that idea, and then they named them Siddhartha Gautama as a founder of the religion, or in that way. When they developed that way of thinking, so there's no remedy to cure that doubt. They just develop. That is called the Vicikiccha. So there's no remedy considered in knowledge. This is the definition of the Vicikiccha. So translation is doubt. Then Uddaca is restlessness, the mental distraction or agitation. So this nature of mental factors like a Ditthigata or Dosa, Vicikiccha, Uddaca will come in second chapter. When we study the second chapter of Abhidhamma Sangaha, we will explain detail in their nature. That's why in this case, you just need to focus the translation to identify the unwholesome consciousness. So in combination with the Vicikiccha and Sampayutta, it becomes the Vicikiccha Sampayutta, some consciousness associated with doubt. And Uddaca and Sampayutta together with Uddaca Sampayutta consciousness associated with restlessness. Okay, so the second category, second way of classification is Sampayutta and Vipayutta. In this case, we will find that Ditthigata Sampayutta or Ditthigata Vipayutta, and Paticca Sampayutta, Vicikiccha Sampayutta, Uddaca Sampayutta. Here also the 5 category you will find. After that, we will apply to the unwholesome consciousness. So the next one is the classification according to the Asankharika and Sasankharika. So Asankharika is without Sankhara. Sasankharika is with Sankhara. This is easy way to understand. So with and without. So in translation, Asankharika is translated as unprompted, and Sasankharika is translated as prompt. So the meaning of Sankhara, just to know the A and Sa show the with and with. A is without, Sa is with. So we just need to know the meaning of Sankhara. So Sankhara sometimes refers to the 50 mental factors, except the Vedana, feeling, and Sanya, perception. So there are 52 mental factors, and except the feeling and perception, the remaining are 50. They are called Sankhara sometimes. So Sankhara Khanda, in case of Sankhara Khanda, aggregate of mental formation, at that time the word Sankhara refers to the 15 mental factors. And the second meaning, conditional phenomena. So in case of sabbe sankhara anicca, all conditional phenomena are impermanent. In that case, the word sankhara refers to conditional phenomena. And avijja paccaya sankhara, here in this place, the word sankhara refers to karmic formation. So all karmic formation arise due to the ignorance. So the last one is prompting or instigation, inducement, prayoga, and the application of an experiment upaya. So the two you can just read, no problem, just to know the prompting. That is encouragement by oneself or by others, in the way bodily, verbal, or mentally. So that encouragement is called the sankhara. So in this usage, in this case, in case of unwholesome consciousness, we will use only the less meaning, prompting, which is called encouragement by oneself or by others. That will be sankhara. So the meaning of sankhara, and the last one is really relevant to this context. So prompt and unprompt. Okay, so three way of classification will come. So this is the example how unwholesome consciousness arises. So okay, at the beginning, a boy steal an apple from a fruit stall. So stealing is not good. You already know that. Not good is so it is guilty, and also that will bring unpleasant result or unexpected results. That is why this is unwholesome. So when it comes with joy, so what joy mean the accompanied by joy. This is according to the feeling. That's why this at that moment the consciousness arises when he is stealing. At that time he is happy. That's why with joy. So somanasa sahagata, we can identify in this way. But somanasa sahagata, so he is happy when he is stealing. Then he has another type, is holding the view that there is no evil in stealing. So I am stealing in my right, maybe he is thinking in that way. He is considering this is not guilty. This is not evil. By that kind of view, this is wrong view, because stealing is guilty. Stealing is evil. It is not right. That's why it is wrong view. So he is happy, accompanied by joy. That's why somanasa sahagata and here detigata sampayutta. So because at that time wrong view come with. Then maybe he is stealing spontaneously. It means that no encouragement. Without encouragement, he himself can do that. And sometimes through the prompting of a friend. So a friend encourage, you can do that, or you do that like this. So this is second type. So in this case, we get the two categories. The one is with joy and with wrong view, then no encouragement, just he is doing for himself as spontaneously. Then second one is with joy, holding wrong view, but because of encouragement, because of prompting, he is doing that. So in this way, 1 and 2 come. Then just changing the view without. So not holding the view that there is no evil. It means the stealing is evil, but I have to steal for my survival. You know, I have no way to solve the problem of hungry, except stealing, because although he knows this is not good, but he's still. At that time, the consciousness arises in the mind will be different from the previous two. So without round view 3 and 4. So we will see in the chart. Then once tea and apple from the fruit store, okay, with neutral feeling. So the feeling, that just feeling changed, like a previous 4 condition. At that time, with the neutral feeling, 5, 6, 7, 8. In this way, the loba mula chitta, because stealing caused by the loba, rooted in the loba. That is why the loba mula chitta are given in this example. So altogether 8. Then another case, a man murders another, so he killed with hatred. So killing always come with the hatred. Maybe the person killed in the robbery, but make a robbery is like a stealing. It is caused by the loba, greed, but killing is caused by the hatred. That's why with hatred. So with hatred means with displeasure. With displeasure. So the feeling he accompanied by displeasure. So domanasa sahagata. Here somanasa sahagata. The second one with neutral feeling means upekha sahagata, because neutral feeling is upekha. Then the hatred come with the displeasure. So domanasa sahagata. Then in a spontaneous fit or range, it means it's very strong. So without other encouragement, is always strong, active. That's the first one of the modern. And the second one is after premeditation. So he need to prepare for something else, and then he need to consult with the friend or someone. It's with the encouragement. So that is why this is second types. So when it is very active, the first modern consciousness. The second one is need the premeditation causes. This is second one, not very strong. Okay, this is 9 and 10. Then the person due to delusion with neutral feeling. Then doubt. Doubt in the enlightenment of the Buddha, etc. So Dhamma, the way of deliverance, like this. So that is associated with doubt. With neutral feeling, it is a kind of unwholesome consciousness. It is 11. And when his mind is distracted, so agitation, he cannot concentrate, as just distress. That is another type of unwholesome consciousness. It is the less consciousness. So these are the example of unwholesome consciousness one by one. Okay, here, given the type of consciousness are given in the charts. So unwholesome consciousness. So roughly we can classify Loba Mula, Dosa Mula, and Moha Mula. Already mentioned that. And the second column, Sahagata. Okay, accompanied by. So here, Somanasa Sahagata, as I mentioned in the example, is withdrawing. So happily stealing, like this, withdrawing. Or then sometime with the neutral feeling, so accompanied by equanimity. In this way, the Loba Mula, the consciousness rooted in the greed, is divided into 2 according to the feeling. So joy or equanimity. Then in second column, let's continue to finish the Loba Mula consciousness. So Sampayutta associated with and Vipayutta dissociated from. So for the Loba Mula, just need to consider with round view or without round view. So if with round view, the former 2, Ditthigata Sampayutta, associated with round view. Then the third and fourth, dissociated with dissociated from round view, Detigata, Vipyuta. So in this way, we can identify, although there are 4 consciousness accompanied by joint, for the second classification, it becomes 2 Detigata Samyutta and 2 Detigata Vipyuta. In this way, we can identify more. We can identify specifically. Then, and Ubekha Sagata also the same, according to their Sampyutta and Vipyuta with round view. Okay, then the third column, Asankharika unprompt and Sasankharika prompt. So that's become the one after another. So the first one is Asankharika. So the first type of Loba Mula consciousness can be understood as Somanasa Sahagata, Detigata Samyutta Asankharika. It is the first one in Pali. So in English, the consciousness accompanied by joint, associated with round view and unprompt. That is the first unwholesome consciousness or the first Loba Mula consciousness. That is different from the second in the classification of Sankhara, because second one becomes prompted. So with encouragement. In this way, the classification comes. So first one and second one different in case of Asankharika and Sasankharika in the last column. Then let's go back to the second column. Another another consciousness, 2 consciousness come with joint. In the second column, it becomes the Detigata Vipyuta, dissociated from round view, is different from the first and second, the third one and the fourth one. So this also differentiate in the last column, unprompt and prompt. In this way, you can see all Loba Mula Chitta, consciousness rooted and greed are different one and another. So in this way, we can understand which one is first one, which one is second, third, and the 8 up to the 8. So this is how Loba Mula consciousness are categorized. Then Dosa Mula Chitta, let's continue to Dosa Mula Chitta. Dosa Mula consciousness associated rooted in hatred, always accompanied by displeasure. So feeling is same. That's why it's become the 2 in number, other than being 8. So less number because the classification only the prompt and unprompt, the last column. So feeling, two of the consciousness are same in the feeling, same in the Sampayutta, always accompanied by displeasure and always associated with aversion. So the only classification is according to the Asankharika and Sasankharika. So Dosa Mula consciousness become 2. So just to know, whenever Dosa Mula consciousness arises, the feeling is displeasure, and the always Dosa aversion associated with the aversion. Then the last category of Moha Mula consciousness is also same feeling. It also is in the same feeling, equanimity, only one feeling. When Moha Mula, the consciousness rooted in the delusion arises, because it is covered under the influence of delusion, it cannot be joined of the displeasure, just equanimity, or it is neutral feeling. Then the difference is in the second column. One associated with doubt, the other associated with restlessness. In this way, unwholesome consciousness are classified into 12, identified in different categories, different types of consciousness. So this is the way how we can understand the unwholesome consciousness. Then in this slide, I just write the English translation. So accompanied by joy associated with wrong view and prompt in order to make clear the understanding in English. So the translation, Pali translation is given in less row. Okay, so this is unwholesome consciousness. So in order to match with the given example, you need to try to memorize the classification. So in Pali and English. So in Pali also not difficult. So please previous slides, Janice. Okay, here, if you wish to memorize the in Pali, so Lava Mula Chitta is Somnasa Sahagata, Detigata Sambyuda Asankharika, first one. Somnasa Sahagata, Detigata Sambyuda Sasankharika, second one. Somnasa Sahagata, Detigata Vipyuda Asankharika, the third one. Is Somnasa Sahagata, Detigata Vipyuda Sasankharika, the fourth one. In this way, Ubeka Sahagata, Detigata Sambyuda Asankharika. In the for me, because we started from the Pali, the memorizing Pali is easier. Then we try to translate, we try to follow to according to our mother language. Then it becomes a clear picture of the unwholesome consciousness. Okay, in this way, we can understand Lava Mula, Dosa Mula, Moha Mula. Then, if you want to understand more about the unwholesome consciousness, we can identify with the how many consciousness accompanied by joy in unwholesome consciousness. You can select up. It is not difficult. So only 4. How many consciousness accompanied by equanimity? So 6. So Lava Mula, in Lava Mula 4, in Lava Mula and 2 in Moha Mula, so 6. How many consciousness accompanied by dosa or displeasure? So 2, only 2. In this way, you can select the enumeration according to the feeling, according to the Detigata Sampayuta. So how many consciousness associated with wrong view? Only 4. How many consciousness dissociated with wrong view? Only 4. And how many consciousness associated with aversion? 2. And how many consciousness associated with doubt? 1. And the consciousness associated with restlessness is 1. So in this way, you can make the group in according to the association and dissociation. Then another way is how many consciousness, unwholesome consciousness are prompt or unprompt. Is both are in 5 in numbers. So because the last one, Moha Mula, cannot be identified as the prompt or unprompt. So it is free from the classification of Sankhara, prompting. So these kinds of understanding will be useful when we make the connection with the consciousness and mental factor together in the group. So when we search for the associated mental factors of the specific consciousness, we will use that kind of classification, that kind of grouping. So trying to study in that way too. Okay, so for today, I will stop here for my teaching and we will continue for the question and answer session.
Dear Bhante, thank you very much for your teachings today. May Bhante lead us in making aspirations and sharing of merits, please.
So let's share our merit. Please follow me. Imina punya kamina.
Imina punya kamina.
Mame bala samagamo.
Bame bala samagamo.
Satam samagamo hotu.
Satam samagamo hotu.
Yava nibbana patiya.
Yawa nibbana patiya.
Yame punyam.
Idame punyam.
Asavakaya vaham hotu.
Asawakayam waham hotu.
Yame punyam.
Idame punyam.
Vanasa pachayo hotu.
Nibbanasa pachayo hotu.
Mama punya bhagam.
Mama punyam bhagam.
Sabha satanam bhajemi.
Sabha satanam bhajemi.
Te sabbe.
Te sabe.
Me samam.
Me samam.
Punya bhagam labandhu.
Punyam bhagam labantu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bante and everyone for the time and participation. Till we meet again next week, may all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.